Hello guys, welcome back to the new video. So in this video we are going to give the functionality of saving favorites images so we can see those images in our favorites screen. So for this thing first let's add an favorite icon on each images. Here in this presentation package we have component package and we have image card. Now in this image card, here let's create one more composable function with the name favorite button. So for this thing we have this field icon toggle button. Here we have this checked parameter, so here we will provide this boolean value is favorite, and this on check change, here we will use this on click. If our is favorite value is true, then we are going to use this favorite icon. Otherwise, we will use this favorite icon with only border. So let's use this favorite button on this image. So here we can use box layout to keep these two things on top of one another. So here with the help of this modifier, we have aligned it to the bottom end, and these two things we will provide through the parameters. And this image card we are using in that staggered grid. So here in the last, let's add those two parameters also. So for now, let's use this is favorite to simply false, and this on toggle favorite status we will provide through the parameters. Here we will pass the unsplash image. So here first let's put a check on this image. If this is not null, then only we are going to call that on toggle favorite status, and we will pass that image. And this image card we are using, first let's press Ctrl B, and we are using this in our search screen. So here we need to provide that on toggle favorite status. So how we are going to save the favorites images in our app? We will use the local database to save these favorites images into that. For local database, we are going to use the Room library. Let's have a brief intro on Room. Now first of all, what is Room? Room is a popular library for Android app development that makes it easier to work with databases. It's like a toolbox for storing and managing data within your app. In simple terms, Room helps you save and retrieve information efficiently, like user data, settings, or any other data your app needs to keep track of. It serves as an abstraction layer over SQLite, the traditional database system used in Android. It simplifies the process of working with databases, making it less complicated and less error prone, which is crucial for app developers. Room database in Android saves data in a local SQLite database on the user's device. Now let's explore the key components that make up Room database. There are three main components. Entity, this defines the structure of our database tables. Dow data access object. These interfaces specify the database operations we can perform. And then we have database. It acts as the central access point to our database. First, let's create a new package in our data package with the name local. And here one more package with the name entity. Here we will keep all our entities. So first thing, we will create our favorite images entity. Entity is simply a table where we will define the number of columns it should have and their name. So here let's create one more data class with the name favorite images entity. So what are the columns this entity should have? Here we can use our domain model, and in this splash image, let's copy all these fields. We are going to use these fields as the columns in our entity. Here we also need to annotate it with entity annotation. So room should know that this will be our entity. We can see this entity annotation is coming from this room library. So let's name our table, and for this we will keep the name in our constant file. Let's use this constraint here. And one more thing, we also need to provide the primary key. So we will use this ID as the primary key. Next thing, we need to define the DAO. So here in our local package, let's create one more interface with the name favorite images DAO. This DAO is simply an interface where we will define how we can access the data. So again we need to annotate this DAO with the DAO annotation. And now I will create all these functions which we will use for querying the local database. So these are the functions which we are going to use in our favorite images DAO. Now we need to write the query for each function, so room should know that what actions the room should need to perform. First function we have this get all favorite images. So here let's first annotate this with query. We need to select this room query, and now we need to write the query so we can get all the favorite images. Here we can simply say select everything. This asterisk is for everything from, and we need to name the table. So our table name will be favorite image table. Next, we need to write the query to insert favorite image. So again we have this annotation with the name upsert. So what this annotation will do, here we don't need to write the whole query, it will just simply insert the image into the database if it is not already exist. If it is already exist, then it will update its parameters. And next we have this delete favorite images. Again we have this simply delete annotation. Again we don't need to write the whole query. This delete annotation will do that query itself. So here it will delete that image from the database. Now first let's write the query for last function. Here let's use again query, and again we need to select. Here we don't need to select everything from the image. We only need to get the ID of those images. So here select ID from favorite image table. So this ID parameter we already have defined this primary key. Let's write this functions query. So again let's use this query annotation. So here first let me write the whole query, then I will explain. In this function, we just only need the boolean value, either true or false. Here we are using these two keywords, select, exist. So this exist will check that is this thing within these brackets exist in the table or not. We just simply need to check whether this ID exists in this favorite image table or not. So this is how we will write the query for this function is image favorite. Now next thing, let's define our database. Here we need to create a class with the name Image Vista Database. So this needs to be an abstract class, and again we need to annotate it with database annotation. We also need to extend this class with the room database class. Now in this database annotation, we need to provide few things like first thing entities. So what are the entities we have? We have this favorite image entity. Next thing we need to provide the version. So version will be 1. If we made any change in our entity, then we need to update this version. And this export schema, let's use this false. Now here let's put the DAO also. Now next thing, let's go to our image repository interface, and here let's define one function with the name toggle favorite status. So this will be the function we will use to toggling that favorite status. So let's implement this function in our repository implementation. Here after this, let's use Ctrl I and enter. First thing, let's provide that database through this constructor. Now next thing, we need to tell the Hilt how it needs to create the object of this image vista database. So again, let's go to our DI package and app module. So here we have this provide image repository function, and we will provide the database also. Now we need to tell the Hilt how it needs to be create this database. So again, let me create a new function. The return type will be the object we needs to create. So in our case, it will be image vista database. Let's use this return keyword with this room, and here we have this database builder. And in this database builder, we need to provide the context and the class and the name. So again, the context will be provided by the Dagger Hilt, and the database class we have this image vista database, and the name of our database will be, let's use the constant, with this name. So here let's use this constant and provide it here. And next we have this build function. So this is how we need to define the room database creation. Now we can close this file, and here in our image repository implementation, let's implement this function. First thing we will check is the image user is trying to toggle is already there in the database or not. And here let's first create a val, and let's access that favorite images Dow, and we will use this here. So here let's use this is image favorite function, and we will provide this image dot id. So with the help of this is image favorite, it will tell us that is the image already in the favorite list or not. Then we will use the if else block. So if the image is already favorite, then we will use this block, otherwise else. So here we will say if it is already favorite, then we need to use this delete favorite image function. And if it is not favorite, then we need to add this image. Now next thing, these function requires the favorite images down, but we have this unsplash image. So again we need to create a mapper so we can convert these unsplash images into this favorite images entity. So in our mappers file, let's create an extension function on this unsplash image data class with the name to favorite image entity. And this will return us this favorite image entity. So we need to provide these fields. So let's copy all these fields because these fields will be similar. So here we need to change these things. So this will be our mapper function. Let's use this mapper function here. First let's convert that unsplash image into that favorite image entity. And we will use this favorite image for this function. So this will be our function for toggling that favorite status. So let's use this function in our search view model. Here after this function, let's create one more function with the name toggle favorite status. Again we will use this try catch block. So let's copy this catch block and use it here. If there is some error, then we are going to send this message to the snack bar. And here we can simply call that toggle favorite status function. And let's provide this image. So this function we are going to use in our search screen. Let's attach this parameter with this. And this screen we are using in that nav graph. So here let's attach this parameter with the function in our view model. Now let's run our app and see how this is working. Let's go to our search screen and search this landscape. Now we can see we have favorite button on each of these images. Let me first open the local database. Here we have this app inspection and we need to select the process. So let's wait for a few moments. Right now it doesn't have any local database. So let's try to insert any of this image. First one, this image. So now we have two tables and our Unsplash images database. So here let me open this favorite images table and click on this live update. So we can see the image I clicked on this to make the favorite, it has been now inserted to this local database. So let's try to insert few more images. So I selected these first 6 images and now these images has been inserted into this database. Now how it will delete? Let me again click on the favorite icon of this first image. So here it has removed the one image from that table. Let me click few more. So here we can see our room database for these favorite images are working perfectly fine. Now next thing, we need to make sure that user should also be aware that which images are favorites or not with the help of these favorite buttons icon. So if the is favorite, then this should be filled icon. So let's minimize this and stop our app inspection. Let's also minimize this emulator. Next thing, let's go to this image repository interface and create a new function. So here I will create a function where I will get the favorite images ID. And let's implement this function in our repository implementation. And here we simply need to attach this function with our DAO. Now let's go to our search view model, and here we will get those favorite images IDs. These will be of type stateflow and list of strings, because those IDs will be of type string. So we will get these images with the repository get favorite image IDs. And these favorite images are of type flow, but we need the state flows. To convert this flow into the state flow, we have this function stateIn. Here we need to define three things: scope, first will be the view model scope, and starting strategy. So here we have this sharing started while subscribed, and let's define the 5 seconds. And next we have this initial value. So initial value will be this empty list. And also let's use the catch operator so we can catch the exceptions. So this exception we will provide to our snack bar. Now we need to use these favorite images ID in our screen. So here we will provide these IDs. Let's attach this from the view model. So here let's collect these IDs with this function collect as state with lifecycle. And we will use these favorite image IDs in our staggered grid. So here in our staggered grid, so here we will use these favorite image IDs, and we have this function contains. So if these IDs contains the ID we are providing, then it will give us the true value. And in that case, this image card will show that filled icon of favorite. Now we can run our app. Again, let's go to our search screen, and again let's search the landscape. So here we can see these three images have this favorite filled icon because these are saved in that local database. And now try to toggle some more images. Now let's search something else. So here we can see our favorites functionality is working fine. Next thing, we will design our favorites screen. So whenever user go to this favorites screen by pressing on this save icon, so this screen should keep all those images user has put a favorite mark. Let's minimize this, and here also. Here we have this favorite screen. So this favorite screen will be quite similar with the other screens. Let's just copy the code from this search screen and use in our favorites screen. Now what are the things we don't need in our favorites screen? Let's remove that. First thing, we will provide not the searched images but the favorite images. Now instead of this search bar, we will keep the top app bar. So let's remove this search bar, and also we don't need this suggestion chips. Next thing, let's go to our home screen and copy this top app bar and these two parameters also. So this top app bar will be having different title. So let's use the title favorite images. Also we will use the navigation icon to this top app bar. So here let's press Ctrl B, use the navigation icon parameter also. So this navigation icon will be of type this. So let's copy this parameter and use it here. By default we are going to provide the null. So let's attach this to our navigation icon. So this navigation icon we are only going to provide into that favorite screen. So let's also copy the icon button for this back click. Next thing, we need to also create the view model for this screen. Again, let's copy the search view model and use this here. Let's rename it to favorites view model. So here we don't need this search image function, and also let's remove this. But these two functions we will use in this screen also. So here we need to create the function to get the favorite images. First thing, let's go to image repository interface and create one more function. Here let me explain one more thing. For some function we are using this suspend modifier, and for other we are using this flow return. So why there is difference? If we want to get the data in one go, then we use the suspend modifier. And if we want the data continuously, then we use the flow return. For this get image function, we are using this suspend because this image we need to get only one time. When we go to the full image screen, then only we need to get the images. But for the search images, then we need the continuous flow of images. Whenever user will scroll, then this function will get the data again and again. In the same way for these favorite images. But for this toggle favorite status, this will be called only one time, because when user will click on their favorite icon, then this function will call, not continuously. So now let's implement this function in our repository implementation. Here we need to get the data in the paging form. So again we need to use this pager. So let's copy this, and the paging config will be similar, only the paging source we need to update. So here the paging source will be directly from that DAO. So here favorite images DAO dot get all favorite images. Now this is giving error. So let's see. So here we can see we need to get the unsplash images, but we are getting the favorite images DAO. Again we need to create a mapper. Go to these mappers, and after this create one more extension function, this time on this favorite images entity to domain model, and this will return us the unsplash image. And the field we can copy from here, because these two data class are exactly same, only the difference was those annotations. So let's use this mapper function. Here we need to use this map, and we will get the paging data first, and we will use this paging data to map each data into that unsplash image. Now this function we can use in our favorites view model. So this function will be quite similar with this. Let's copy this. This time the type of will be state flow of paging data of Unsplash image. And let's use this get favorite images. And the initial value we can keep the empty paging data. But one more thing, we need to always add that cached in operator. So whenever we are working with this paging data, so in our view model we always need to use this cached in operator. Now we need to attach these functions and value in our nav graph. First thing, let's access that view model. And these let's attach. Now we can run our app. Now let's go to our favorites screen. And here we have all those images which we marked as favorite and the top app bar with the name favorite images. Let's press back button and here we have our home screen. And if we press the search icon, then we will go to the search screen. And now let's toggle these favorites icon. So this will remove from this list. So here this is working perfectly fine. But one last thing we need to do is whenever we don't have any images to this favorites screen, then this screen should be having an empty state. So next thing we need to add this empty state. First let's close all these files. Let's go to our favorites screen and in the end let's create a new composable function with the name empty state. Keep this function as private because we are going to use this empty state only in our favorites screen. So here we will use the column layout. So here first we will use the image and we will provide this image from the drawable. First let me paste the image we are going to use in our drawable package. So here we have this painter resource. So for our empty state, we are going to use this image and then these two text. So let's also give some space and let's use this empty state composable function after this zoomed image card. So here we will check if favorite images dot item count is equal to 0, then we are going to use our empty state. And let's also use some modifier. Now let's run our app again. let's go to this favorites screen, and here we have our empty state. So this is looking quite good. Now let's add some images here. Now go back to our search favorites screen. So here we have our favorites screen. So this was all for this video. In the next video, that will be the last video, we will implement the remote mediator for our home screen. If you found these videos helpful, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.